be done. So we will encourage citizens to participate, and we've done this at various levels, as we'll be explaining.
Okay, Michael, to you.
Yes, thank you. You know, there are two things. There are people who don't know they are citizens, and I have seen a clip by Herbert Musomesa, and he was asking people who is a citizen, and they don't even know they are citizens. Citizens have rights and duties. Article 17 of our Constitution entails the duties of citizens, especially that says one of the duties is to combat corruption. But citizens give government two things. That is the vote and taxes. And what they expect in return is adequate service delivery. Now, as Mike Aboneka, as a citizen, as an activist, as a good governance, commentator, the definition of tax to me is no longer a non-quid pro quo. It is a quid pro quo. We give money, we give taxes, and what we expect is effective service delivery. Now, the equation is not complete until the citizens not only give the money and power, but have to ensure they monitor and ask that where has our money gone. For example, the COVID-19 funds. Where do we know? Where do we stand? Last night before I came, I was asking on Twitter, has anyone seen the terms of reference for the National Task Force on COVID? When they sit, they get an allowance or something. How much money do we have? So that's just an example. But it is a duty of every citizen that they must participate in affairs of government. And by the way, participation in affairs of government is not just on a demonstrating. It is many things. Because under Article 38, as a citizen, you're given that right. So which includes this whole issue of social accountability. So social accountability is building from the right that is already granted by the Constitution. For example, how many PTAs, Parents Teachers Associations, are still working? I've been raising the issue of exorbitant school fees. People are taking rakes, cement, barbed wires as a school requirement. But what is the PTA saying about it? The school management committees. The parents sit on those school management committees. I know of a school where the budget for the co-curricular activities, instead of putting balls or volleyball nets, they were putting rakes, squeezers, and then the children were missing out. So the aspect of accountability then there becomes a problem. And it is at every level. People shouldn't look at it only, national level. It is even at home. If I gave you money for 1 kilogram of meat, where is the balance? It's about building a generation that is not only asking for accountability, but it is accountable. And you have a right as a citizen at every level. So that's where I sit from and saying that I redefine the definition of tax being a quid pro quo. We give, we expect.
Yeah. Well, as we also have this conversation, wherever you are, do know that the hashtag is Stand Against Corruption. It's right below on the screen. And also the fact that earlier on, Richard, you had highlighted the type of citizenry that we are dealing with. One that you say is tired. One that is not bothered. But question is, where did all of this start from? Let's go back to the root cause, because as we call on the citizenry, and many people say, things like that. So Richard, describe the citizen who is watching and is saying, hey, we are talking about corruption. I have been there.
Thank you, Rita. I think I will start with the point of, in Uganda, I think we have, and this has been mentioned over the years, we have some of the best legal frameworks. And in the studies that we have conducted, it's very clear. We have the Anti-Corruption Act, we have the Leadership Code Act, the Whistleblower Protection Act. We have a number of legal frameworks. But I think where the Ugandans are tired is we've had a number of Ugandans that report, say in terms of whistleblowing, and then before you know it, you are also whistleblown. They've told us I leave a police station, and then I receive a call. I'm like, okay, you just whistleblew on me, so but please be ready to face the consequences. And then we also have cases, the ones we would call the untouchables, and recently I think one of the prominent fighters against corruption came out to say, please name the untouchables, I will touch them. But you know, we've continued to name them, and these have not been touched. So I think the citizenry, in a way, got so tired of this kind of trends, you know, happening in Uganda. We've had the names mentioned and nothing has happened. I think we've had ministers that have been also condemned by the international community, but no action seems to be taken. And when we look at there's some aspects of the law, for example, when you look at the Leadership Code Act, you know, there's that provision on accessing the declared assets of a leader. So the law is not very clear because it puts a stringent, I think, guidelines on how an individual who is interested in knowing the assets of this leader, you know, can access the information. So they will say you write to the tribunal. Then when you write to the Inspectorate of Government, then you will give them some of the assets you know that this person owns but has not declared. But you see, before I get the information from you, then you're already asking me for information on some of the assets I already know, and yet it is me as a citizen who is supposed to report the assets that were never declared. So some of these, I think these challenges have gotten the citizens so tired. And then we also see some individuals, whether in police, whether in you know, the Ministry of Health, and it's good Michael talked about the COVID-19 task forces. You see, there are already institutions in place. Because in Uganda, we have the disaster risk management policy, or the disaster policy. And we have committees at the local government level, the disaster management committees at local government level. We have under the Office of the Prime Minister, the National Emergency and Coordination you know, Center. But then another institution is put up, you know, the National COVID Task Force, and then we have the district task forces. So you render the already existing structures irrelevant. So in this aspect, the people involved on these committees, one, they get so tired, they get bored of the system. I think it's one of the reasons why we tend to see the citizens apathy. Twakowa, you know, tebigenda maso, you know, tulibako, temutubulira ebyo bintu byammwe abali eyo abasoma, you know. So I think this trend, and also for some of the individuals, that take citizens for a ride. You know, we do not, I think, take their concerns serious. We are like, yeah, after all, you will still, you know, vote for us. What will you do? So that's why you will find the citizens looking on. Someone is stealing bags of cement on a site, and then they look on. They're like, okay, can you sell this to us? So a bag of cement.
Give us some that we don't report.
You know? Yeah. So a bag of cement that would go for about 35,000. This guy is selling it at 5,000. So do you actually see the consequence that this building will collapse? Do you see the consequence that we continue to drive on roads, to walk on roads that filled with potholes simply because of the material that was stolen? So, but because the government, I think, is not responding, takes too long to respond to some of these calls. The investigation processes take too long, you know, too long, that justice is delayed, and you know, justice delayed is
justice denied.
Justice denied. So I think it's one of the causes of this apathy.
Okay. Well, Michael seems to also be in agreement, and perhaps you will have additions to that as well.
Yes. The truth is, we are tired and exhausted. You know, tired of bad stuff, but also exhausted from demanding. A non-responsive government exhausts us. We get tired because in 2015, towards the 2016 elections, in Kangulumira, and they are watching, I know, we lost about 5 people in an accident simply because the cars were all dodging a pothole, so there was a head-on collision. Now, who's going to pay for that? But you continuously pay taxes. The tax man is always on your back, on your neck. People's businesses are being locked up. But where are the services? If you go to the hospitals and people do not even have, you know, Panadol to give you. I've just seen, you know, especially in Kamli, where I come from, for a long time, one of the hospitals not have the maternity ward. All the mattresses were rotten. Now, you are quick to ask money from me. Actually, I've already deducted my pay. I drove here, that's fuel. I've paid, you know, For every litre, there's 700 shillings I'm paying in tax. But the point is, when you continuously do your duty as a citizen to pay tax, and then you don't see the result of it, you get tired. It becomes crazy, because then you're saying, am I flogging a dead horse? Which shouldn't be the issue. The other point is that I think citizens have been taken for granted, and people have been demonizing citizens and saying, you know what, your job is to pay tax, but don't demand for accountability, which is a wrong thing. That how come when it comes to the voting time like now, I know we'll get into that later, everyone is going to the citizens. You know, we are tired. Let me give you just a simple illustration. There is no homogeneous community in terms of, you know, the voters and everything. Today you receive the presidential candidate, Mr. Katumba. Tomorrow you receive Miss Nancy. You're the same community. And they are going to tell you, you know, probably different things. People will wear yellow, will wear blue, will wear black, depending on who is coming. So citizens are tired. And every day they have to entertain a presidential candidate. And they're asking them questions. Now, when you come to power, and this is by the social contract, we have given a social contract for 5 years, and these are the issues we're asking for. So in 5 years, if you haven't done, and by the way, if we're talking about 5 years, if 5 years you haven't done the things you promised, don't again start showing us the things that you did in the other years. It's about the 5 years. What have you done? And that's the accountability. And so they have reason to get worried. They have reasons to tire, because you can't continue flogging a dead horse. So you either get a new one or something happens. So the non-responsive government has created that issue, that, you know, you don't get what not even what you deserve, okay, what you want, but what you deserve. So the other point is that if we don't see services, because you know, sometimes there are individuals who, NTV here runs stories, and they say, for contributions, please send money here. And then you see the usual faces. They are not government, they are not employed. Everyone is calling on mama someone, saying someone. And I keep asking, who are these guys? Are they government? Who are they? Like, what are their terms of reference? Where do they get all this money? But because citizens are tired, and when they say twakowa, to our government to yambe, I think that song has gotten tired, but we need to continue. I think the point is to our government ekole echayo, like not to yamba, because we give them the mandate. So they are tired, I agree. But all hope is not lost. Do you know why? Shall we stop sleeping because we're afraid of dreaming? I think no. We have to sleep, and whether the dream comes or not, but we have to continue pushing on for the best, because this is our country, and no one else is going to help us apart from ourselves, because we have the duty under Article 17 of the Constitution.
Okay, from what I picked from Richard and also you, Michael, we mentioned the unresponsive bit from the people that we want to hold accountable, or that we ask the citizens to hold accountable. So when you're taking a look at promoting social accountability through active citizenry, if we're calling on and telling the citizen, please stop just stepping on the sidelines and keeping there and keeping quiet, come out and say something. One will say, if I'm going to come out and say something, but this is the particular government I'm meeting, then how do we go forward? How do you tell them, let's move past this? What do they need to do, Richard?
I think one, it comes to what can we do as a civil society organizations, as government, and then also what would the citizens do. One of the things we need to build the capacities of the citizens to believe in themselves, to believe that each citizen of Uganda has a mandate, and their mandate is too huge to cause a change that they want. For example, by requesting them or asking them to get involved in whatever activity that leads to accountability, to get involved into the electioneering period, please participate in the campaigns, of course with a lot of consideration in regards to the standard operating procedures. Participate when it comes to the election days, the already designated days. Please get out there, vote. Issues of saying, "I will not vote, we know the results, please go and vote." Go and vote. And you know, that saying of, we already know who the winner is, it's a result of, you know, it's the apathy that we are talking about. People are like, so one is we encourage them to go and participate. And then two, we've held a number of talk shows. Please call in. When there are censuses carried out, when there are assessments conducted on how you can perform, how you assess the service delivery at your local level, please call in into the radio talk shows, onto television shows. Please call in, listen, send in your issues, send in your ideas on how some of the issues can be addressed. I think we've seen some of the recommendations being picked, and for us as civil society organizations, we will continue raising the voices, but we have also continued to build the capacities of citizens. One of the things we have done is, for example, you look at the reports of the Auditor General, for over the years. So what we have done as civil society organizations is we've simplified them into an easy to understand format, and then we've gone down there at the grassroots to engage these citizens, to inform them of the audit findings for local governments that have qualified reports. We tell them, yes, you see your local government had a qualified report, and these are the reasons that were put forward by the Office of the Auditor General. So then please demand from your leaders, demand if the issue was from the political wing, whether the council took unlawful decisions, whether the accounting officer maybe stole some money, whether the technocrats ate some money. So we request them to demand. And I think we have seen some pressures coming in.
Just to stop you there for a second, when you just simplify it for them and tell them this is what you can ask, this is who you can ask, what is the engagement usually like and the results in the end?
The engagement is, we've actually, in some local governments, we realize some accounting officers will run away, from the engagements because the citizens have put them to task to explain. I mean, how do we return 5 billion Uganda shillings? Yet we have health facilities without drugs. Yet we have staff that have not been paid. We have teachers that have missed salaries maybe for 2-3 months, and then we are returning these monies. And then for some local governments, we have seen changes. For example, in Lira, we had engagements in Lira, and we had the cow interdicted, we had the internal audit, I think, also had issues. We had the chief finance officer interdicted, and then we've seen challenges, we've seen changes in the system, and the way things are being done. I think the local government has embraced new ways of, implementing activities, new ways of approvals. So we see some change happening, but these engagements are not so easy for especially the duty bearers, because putting you to task to explain why some monies were spent on something different from what it was intended to be spent on.
Well, Michael, from what Richard has said, let's take a look at the questions that should be asked by the citizens.
Yes.
In one way, the civil society is helping. You're trying to simplify these things for them, but also just as mere questions. And I think it was just the beginning of this week, the presidential candidate that is for the NRM actually mentioned the fact, well, he was in Kabale. Yes. And we had some people there who were asking him these questions. Yeah. Girls were saying, you promised us these particular sanitary towels, but we haven't seen them, things like that. Who needs to ask these questions? How do they know what questions to ask?
Yes, thank you. And I think that is the golden thread in this fabric called, transparency and accountability. Knowing the right questions. Now, I have asked citizens in my writing, in our advocacy, saying, ask these leaders to account before they promise. If someone is coming to, for their rally, before even they start telling you, I will do, let them say, I have done so, and so much more has to be done for the incumbents. Okay? Yeah. So that way, that is an accountability. And just bring it in there that campaigns are not just a rally, an event, thank you for seeing us, see you on February 14th. It's supposed to be a conversation. I want someone to challenge me and tell me that there was a rally where about 20 citizens stood up and asked questions to these all candidates, even if it's an MP. So account before you promise. It's something that everyone should take. Whoever is coming, say, relax. Wait. What have you done? If they're incumbents. And for the newcomers, it's the same question. What are you going to do about this issue? It has been here forever. We've had, borehole breakdowns forever. We've had no water forever. We've had, I know of a school in eastern Uganda where the pit latrine is full So people have to go and use people's plantations, and people were also tired of, the plantation is now filled. And I said, but where are the people? Why don't you ask the right questions? So the right question is, why is this being done this way? Where is our money? People at campus usually ask, our money, our money. Don't end at campus. I don't know why people are so enthusiastic. They are so energetic when they are at campus or institutions of learning. When there is no DSTV, they want to strike, and then but when they come out of university, I think they cease being citizens. But you're paying much more money, by the way, not about even the fees which your parent is paying. So the question of how much is going here? When was this done? Why is this done this way, or why isn't it done this way? So it is important to ask those questions.
Now, with such questions, one would also say it also requires that there's transparency from the start. Because if there's not transparency, then there's going to be another issue altogether. Yes. And this is when we bring in, because I'll just quote something that the UN Secretary General said last week, which was looking at in the midst of a pandemic, because now we're talking about, yes, Uganda that has been in a new normal for a bit now, but he said corruption is criminal, it's immoral, and it's the ultimate betrayal of public trust. But it's also more damaging in times of crisis, as the world is experiencing now with the COVID-19 pandemic, which we as a country are also going through. So transparency, and perhaps you will correct me, have always been issues when it comes to a few things you cannot disclose where the money went, classified.
Yes.
Yes, or perhaps how we're going to spend this should not be a part of.
Yes.
But we'll give you the service when we can give it to you. We don't need to give you timelines on these things. So taking into consideration that, and also the pandemic, how harder is it going to be for a citizen to ask some particular questions when transparency is now being affected? I'll start with you, Richard, and go to you, Michael.
That's an interesting question. And we've had this discussion, I think, as civil society organizations, looking at the classified expenditures, and then their auditing, and who is entitled to receiving the audit report, the committee in parliament that looks at this report. And I think the citizens do not have an idea. And I think a lot of lots of monies in our budget, I think, end up being misused under the classified expenditure. But anyway, it is classified, so we cannot get the information about this budget. But the right questions, I think, to ask, just to continue this discussion for the citizens, and Michael has made mention. You've, for example, voted for this a member of parliament. You know their roles. So how many times have they represented you as a citizenry? How have they represented your constituency? Has there been any change? Because they're supposed to lobby for you anyway. So when you look at the district, at the local government level, your council, put them to task. One, they're supposed to represent you in council. They're supposed to keep contact with the electorate. They're supposed to do monitoring. Do they actually monitor? Because we realize some of these political leaders, they will not even monitor the nearest health facility close to them, not even the nearest school. And then eventually they will start demanding for monitoring. We need money to enhance our monitoring. We did this. So one, I think, of the questions is to look at their mandate and then ask them questions in regard to their mandate. Do not ask them questions in Bamekabo Zise. I think that will be unfortunate. Asking them how much money have you given us. So, but look at questions like, what have you done for this constituency? What have you done for this district? What have you done for us in the 5 years? We put you into this position for 5 years, and there was a contract signed that you would deliver this and that. And these politicians have very nice, very appealing manifestos. They will even promise bridges where there are no rivers, and
and sometimes actually promise that they will bring the river.
Absolutely.
Yes. And then the bridge later.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is unfortunate. So those are the questions that we need to ask them. Let's not ask them questions of how many people do you bury, how many children do you pay for school fees, because that's not their mandate. We as citizens need to know that we have a mandate to educate our children. We have a mandate to feed our children. It's not a responsibility of our political leaders. So when a political leader does it, it's really out of their good heart, but it's not that they are mandated. So as citizens, we need to also come away from aspects of demanding for, the 5,000, 20,000 for us to attend your rally. Because once you ask for 10,000 to attend someone's rally, to vote for them, it means you are selling your vote. Yeah. It means you are selling, and that is corruption.
And for 5 years, you're being paid 10,000.
5 years for 10,000 shillings. I cannot do the math how much that would be on a daily. So as citizens of Uganda, we encourage you to desist from any forms of leading on, because sometimes we lead on some of these leaders. We lead on the police. They stop you before the policeman asks for anything. You say, officer, in Coco, and then they let you go. So before you know it, your car maybe your tires are worn out. You have a puncture. You ram into people. So because of the 5,000 or 2,000 that you gave to a police officer, you lead to a loss of lives. People that take care of their homes, that take care of their families, you really do not know. So we need, I think, to desist, and then let's ask questions in regard to the mandates of the people that we have put into leadership positions.
Okay, Michael?
Wow, transparency. And I think that I'll take it on the integrity bit and talk about the transparency and why all these issues. I don't think we'll have demonstrations. I don't think we'll have issues in this country if social sector was up there in the scale. I find it ironical, and I think it's even an oxymoron, that Uganda is always scores first on the global happiness index. And I'm wondering, what kind of happiness do we have? I know we are happy. We welcome people, even when you have your issues. But to what extent are you going to advance your issues? So integrity is the essence of everything successful. Integrity is the essence of everything successful. Now, however much you've built a very good road, but in between there you've eaten some layer, it is nothing. Because integrity is everything successful, and we shall measure, and you see, even the Bible says they shall be seen by their acts. So the point for me here is that at the end of the day, it tells. I come from a place where I think there was a theater built when I was young, and I think in the very first year this theater was built, it was already cracking. And then someone came and said, this is not a design of a theater. It looks like some store. So such things, I mean, you're like, but who constructed these culverts? Like who? I remember the Kayunga Road when UNRWA was constructing. I think they finished, and then there's a signpost that is supposed to warn you of the humps ahead. But now these signposts were at the humps themselves. And I kept asking myself, so how is this a warning to a motorist? Okay? I asked UNRWA, did you give these guys a job completion certificate? Did you inspect these things? Some were removed and some are still there as I speak now. The new road, the Kayunga and Jeru Road. How do you put a signpost on the hump itself? Yet you're supposed to warn me meters ahead that a hump ahead. And the signpost is reading hump ahead, but it's on the hump. So who does that work? And the people in that area, were they just looking on? Who was in charge? So when you ask those questions, if people were transparent in the process, then the end of it will be very good for us. So I think that how should we engage in this, especially in the era of COVID? And I agree with the Secretary General's issue that yesterday I was actually discussing this with my wife, and I said, if it is very difficult for someone to get a Panadol, how easy is it going to be for them to access COVID treatment? If now they are saying that you need about 5 million shillings per day, we've had issues of oxygen supply. NTV running the story here. I mean, we are not even at the peak of stage 4, and oxygen is already disappearing. Oxygen that we are supposed to breathe like the last resort. If we have no bed for a mother in hospital, shall we have a bed for a COVID patient? The tents that were blown away by the air. So I asked a question following your tweet as NTV. So what would have happened if there were patients in there? To me, that is now the question. What would have happened if there were patients there? So so how come that other things continue to work but others do not work? Is it deliberate? Is it by deliberate design? Why is it that people have to continuously pay these billions of money? And now they are putting it in people's minds I have a colleague who sent me a message and saying that they spent over 50 million shillings, and then they had to switch off the machine because the parents could not afford more. Your treatment, sir, we are sorry, Richard and Rita, thank you for coming to our hospital, but we can't go beyond. And life support was switched off. And now we are going into the legal battles. Because 50 million shillings you're paying, how much has that person paid in terms of tax since they were born in this country? So I think as a country, corruption eats the bone marrow that is responsible to produce the red cells in our bodies. So once the bone marrows are eaten, this thing will just be empty and it will just be walking dead people. So as a country, corruption eats to the marrow. As I summarize, as Black Monday, I think we are over. Black Monday is we track corruption in the Citizens Action Against Corruption. We wear black every Monday. Every Monday you'll see me in black. But the point is that we've been following these scandals. Who remembers the bicycle scandals? How many tires were bought? There are many scandals. The radios, have the face masks reached? You know, the radios, we're wondering where are they reaching? Where I stay, it's not even far. It's somewhere. People are waiting for the government masks, okay? And then you're asking these questions. We remember the story that I think NTV ran and other people, that the person who was actually supplying radios, he had a transformer factory, and then they're wondering, how can you be producing radios and you only have 2? And that is all COVID money. The billions that is going into. We're asking questions of the people that gave the eggs, the bananas, the wheat flour. Where did they go to? Yet actually, the patients were saying they were not even having a decent meal. Who ate the eggs? It can just be as simple as that. Who ate the COVID eggs? Who ate the COVID wheat? Who ate the COVID milk? And those are real questions. So I started a hashtag called Follow the Money UG. Let's follow the money wherever it has gone. Let us follow it as citizens because it is our money.
And how is that going, or where did it end?
Where it is still going on. I have a few colleagues that have joined. Sometimes we do work clandestinely and we are getting information. I know that there are people, there are colleagues who actually published a story, a report on the COVID funds on how much, but you see they can't declare all. And that's why we need to ask these questions. I asked the Prime Minister on Twitter about the COVID accountability and the rest. 2 days after that, that's when they issued the press statement. So I asked again because I thought maybe it is a routine that you first have to ask. But we need to know. We need to know what is happening. What is the stand of the money at the district level? The 165 million, how much was used? At least I had discussions with districts like Kumi and Palisa at the local level, and I was discussing with these, LC3 and LC2, and the man says, I'm paid 5,000 shillings for transport back to and fro, and I'm riding 20 kilometers. And then time reached when they told them, for you can no longer come to the task force. And we are here saying COVID is real, wear masks, but you're eating people's money. And let me tell you that you're not eating people's money like people say. You're eating away the future. You're eating away your own future. Because time is going to come when you will not have access to the money you're having. You will die at some point. We are all mortal. So the bone marrow, we need to preserve it. As citizens, we need to preserve it because it's even our duty under Article 17, Clause I. So as I wind up on issues of transparency, is that if people are supposed to do 4 layers of tarmac and they just eat 2, they are killing us in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we just make mention of the platforms one can use to have and hold the government when it comes to social accountability. Yes. But what particular platforms? Well, Michael, you might have your following. Richard, you might have your following. But there's that lady who is just still waiting for that face mask that you make mention of. And as we are in the election period, now the campaigning period, we're going closer and closer to January. And also the COVID-19 pandemic is not about to leave us. We're still coming to terms with it and seeing how we go forward. But so many things have been raised in this time, and you're wondering, these conversations are had in homes. They are had on tables in different places and workplaces. But then how is this eventually brought out? How do they get these people to hear what their concerns are and ask them and task them to give them what they promised? Richard? I think,
Rita, before Richard, let me give an example to that as Richard comes in, why I love social accountability. A few years ago in Busheng here, Ishaka, their public space, which they use for football, is a playing ground. was being taken by an investor to build and what have you. The citizens said, no, this is our football pitch, it's our recreation center, you won't take it away. And they fought up to now, and big ups to Kakonge Lee and colleagues in Bushenyi. They stood up. They didn't wait for people in Kampala. There was a time, there was a celebration, either Heroes Day or whatever, and they left the stadium very dirty. I, in Kampala, wrote an article about it in the papers, and it was sorted down there. So I think that we just need to have change agents wherever we are. And that issue of saving the grounds in Bushenyi, to me, is a very good success story in terms of social accountability. For people to stand and say, no way, this is our recreation center, you won't take it. That's a very good, illustration of what social accountability can achieve.
Okay.
Richard, over to you.
What about you, Richard?
I think what the citizens also need to do is, one, reach out to the community-based organizations, to the civil society organizations, or call them NGOs, within your area. Present your issues with evidence. The civil society organizations will always want to have evidence. So when you have evidence that you did not receive this number of masks, as promised by government, that would really be very useful information. Because what we usually do once we receive that information, we will cause engagement meetings with government. Then the second thing to do is to use your local level structures. Yes, you might not get to the parliament, you might not get to the cabinet, but use your local council one structures, because we have local council one structures that are functioning. So reach out to your chairpersons, LC1, LC2s, then at all those levels, reach out to them. And then also, I think as citizens, we need to identify individuals within our communities, and that's why we bring in the aspect of the integrity awards. And we're like, okay, let the citizens nominate, because the citizens know it best. They know who has served this country with integrity, who has served with a lot of honesty, who has been transparent in the way they do their things, and then they know they've actually conducted the lifestyle audit already. Because whereas we have been pushing government to embrace the lifestyle audits, we have government staff that just graduated like yesterday. They have entered at maybe U6, but in just 2 years, this guy has put up a storage building. They've put up apartments. They've bought land. I think they've bought the entire village. And they are earning about 700,000 on a monthly basis. So how then will they have raised this money to procure or to purchase these items? So the lifestyle audits, the citizens will know. They will tell you the son of so and so just graduated, but now they are driving.
But then they could also say, well, the son of so and so perhaps has tapped into so and so's wealth.
Yeah. Or is an administrator.
Yes, so there's also that.
And that is very important, because the citizens will know.
Yeah.
I'm telling, when you visit these citizens, they will tell you, that one, I think, if it so happens that you inherited or you've become an administrator, they will definitely know, because the information will move around. So the citizens need to look out for those individuals that have made a contribution. They may not be in the civil society, they may not be in the leadership positions, but individuals that have made a contribution in society and that can advance their issues. Then the other thing I talked about is using the existing structures. Let's embrace the community based structures and the aspect of Bulungi Bwansi. So the village where I stay, we started, we looked at our road network. Because of the rainy season, it was all bushy. So we decided to dig it ourselves without having to hire, these young men to dig the road. Said, no, let's do it ourselves, such that we set an example. So, let's look out for these individuals, and who knows, they can advance our complaints better. But then, we continuously demand and participate in government programs. Let's participate in them such that we avoid issues of saying we were never involved in this government program. When it comes, when the yoga comes, please, let's embrace it. Let's participate in it, and then monitor all the issues happening. When it is discriminatory in nature, they are maybe giving monies to youth belonging to a certain group and not you. That's the only way you will know is when you get involved.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe Michael, if you want to add on.
Well, I will just take it from there that I was telling colleagues that in the Youth Livelihood Fund, we lawyers are excluded, and I'm still asking myself why. Yet we go to the same school, and then we spend 5 years in school, we have spent more money, and then when we come out, you're saying you can't actually qualify for a Youth Livelihood Fund. It's really unfair. But in the context of where we are, we're using what is available. I'm here asking myself, how can an ordinary person in Kamuli, in Kangulumira Chisega, reach the IG, the office of the IG? How can they? But where are they even the office of the Nakalema unit, the State House Anti-Corruption Unit? Meanwhile, what law establishes that unit? Meanwhile, what are the terms of reference? Like for me, even before I got to say, okay, now we have many units, we have many avenues where you can report corruption, I first want to ask the very first question. What are the terms of reference for the State House Anti-Corruption Unit? What is the legal establishment of that unit?
And have you asked those questions to the right people?
I have every day. I'm still waiting for the answer up to now. How much do the members earn on that unit? Are they drawing money from the consolidated fund, or it is a particular vote? I think for me the accountability is starting from there. The watchdog that is supposed to catch other small animals should also first ask. So we need to find out whether the dog is okay, whether that process is fine. You have the IG, then you bring a unit, and then we are messing up. For me, there is actually an accountability issue with the very forum that we're supposed to report issues to.
And I think you make mention of all the things that we have been having a conversation about, which is one, transparency, accountability, the questions being asked, who's asking these questions. But the two of you have mentioned two things: change agents, you mentioned that, but also you mentioned the fact that you have the ability to vote these people, and you also have the power to be a change agent based on who you maybe nominate or vote. So let's take a look at what you were mentioning, the Lifestyle Audit or the National Citizen Integrity Awards 2020. Yeah. Richard, take us through what they are all about.
So the National Integrity Awards 2020 is an initiative that has been going on an annual basis. And what we have done is we've partnered with a number of civil society organizations at the grassroots level, in districts in West Nile, in Midwestern Uganda, in Ankole, we have in the east, you look at the Bukedi sub-region, the Busoga, we've gone to the Teso sub-region, and then Karamoja, plus also in the central region. And when I say central region, we are looking at Buganda, so Greater Masaka area. And what is happening is, this is, I think, one of the activities where we want to award, where we want to appreciate those outstanding, honest, individuals in the public sector that have served, diligently, that have been very honest in the way they do their work, people of integrity. And we want to award them, and we want to send this message that in Uganda, we want to rule out that saying is basimo genzi, we want to appreciate those people and to send a message to the rest of the corrupt. Tell them even when you serve with integrity, you can be awarded, So we want to award those people. We want to also make them recognized in community. Some of them do not actually know they have served with integrity. Some of them do not even know they have been extremely honest, but because of the people they've been serving, so the people have nominated them. So what we did is we reached out to a number of these organizations. We've been working with them. We reached out to them and then tasked them to mobilize their communities to participate in the nomination process. So they've been submitting names of individuals in the public sector. Please, if you're in the private sector, do not ask questions of why haven't I been picked on.
So they don't stand as outstanding individuals, just to clarify that.
Their turn will come.
We will also arrange, to have the private sector players, come in. But this time around, because we are putting our government to task, we are putting our, we have a right to our government, not hold our government accountable, which might be a bit difficult at the private sector. So under these citizens have been nominating, so they send in the names, but there are forms that are picked from these regional offices, there are forms that are picked, so people will sign and then they enter in details. Then these are submitted at the national level. We have a vetting committee, so we've had 3 nominees from each of the sub-regions that I mentioned, and these are vetted at the national level to really understand, but to also do a background check on these individuals, because you could have been nominated by someone who probably has their own interest, but you've not served with integrity. So there is a clear process that scrutinizes, you know, your conduct. We'll look at your background. Though we may not want so much to look into for your background to determine your future or your current, but we will still look at your time of service for this period. Have you been honest in the way you do your things? Have you served with integrity? Do you respond, you know? So have you also been involved in issues of fighting corruption? So we want people that have been transparent in the way they do their work. So the citizens have nominated these.
So nomination is done, it's closed?
Nomination is closed.
For this particular year?
Yes.
Okay.
This particular year, nominations are closed, and the vetting committee, I think, has also finalized their process. So tomorrow, the 16th day of December, we will be at Royal Suits Hotel Bugolobi, and I think this will be streamed live here at NTV.
Yes, it will.
At 3. So we will have an event where we will award these people. We will have a number of dignitaries talking to us. We also have former public servants that are retired, that served with integrity, that will also be giving us highlights on how they made it, you know, on how they contributed to transparency, accountability, and good governance within the country. And that, you know, this initiative is conducted by the 3 organizations, the Anti-Corruption Coalition of Uganda, Action Aid International Uganda, Transparency International Uganda, working with like-minded organizations, you know, at both the national level and then also at the local government level.
Okay. Well, from the Action Aid bit of things, Michael, where do you see, because Richard has mentioned, people have come, they have nominated, but are there any gaps to the engagement? Are there things that people could do better for the next award, since this particular nomination is done and we're just waiting for the announcement? But what could they do?
Well, thank you for that question. I think that, well, the first issue is that at least we're going to have the awards this year. COVID or no COVID, the award is there. For me, that is a plus, because most things have been put off because of, you know, COVID that came. But the fact that we're going to have it, to me, is a plus. That, you know, thanks to the partners and the citizens, that they continue. Because you know what, even when COVID comes, accountability is still an issue, integrity is still an issue. And you see, it comes from the basis that integrity is not something you show others. It is how you behave behind their back. I'll say that again. Integrity is not something you show others. It is how you behave behind their back. So that's why these awards should be taken seriously. They are citizen-oriented. They are citizen-backed. It is the citizens at all regions that actually participate in this. Others, even we work with partners at radio stations. People call in and say, I think Rita should take this one because of ABCD. So I think what needs to be done better is the continuous lookout and monitoring and looking at, you know, new aspects of accountability at whatever levels. Because it's also possible that Rita can take the award this year and she also takes it next year because she's doing well in terms of integrity. That one, not really, but the idea is that at least we would want to award as many as possible every year, because there are many change agents out there. So this year is that away from just the event, I love the process. The process is what defines the power of a citizen. The process is what defines the participation of a citizen. Tell me, you won't nominate Rita unless you know her, unless you've been following her. You won't nominate Michael unless you know what he's doing in this country. So that alone, citizens have the entire year to look out. In Sebei region, in Ichigezi region, who are these 3 prominent persons that are actually doing this work? So the process is as important as the outcome, because it actually talks about the citizenry accountability, social accountability, and how citizens should engage. And this should not stop there. And actually, I'm calling on citizens to start their own awards wherever they are. We have several WhatsApp groups. So I want to actually, this is a call to all admin groups on WhatsApp groups. Start an integrity award for your own group. Yes, I want to thank everyone.
That might be very interesting to see who might be voted. But it's perhaps the conversations in the WhatsApp group should expand.
Should expand,
yes. But as we wrap this up, and just your parting shots to the both of you, what should one person who has watched and is wondering, at the end of it, what should I take and remember when we talk about promoting social accountability through active citizenry? Richard?
I think Rita for the viewers, something you should take out is get involved. At whatever cost, get involved. Report the corrupt, and do not get involved into corruption-related issues. Where you see people defrauding Ugandans, please report. Come out to criticize, use your voice, speak, because it will be very unfortunate if you reserved your comments. Say, I reserve my comments. Where you see people stealing taxpayers' money, you say, I reserve my comments. I will pretend like I have not seen it. It will be very unfortunate.
Yeah.
And I think the generations to come will hold us accountable for the actions we have taken today. So I would encourage you to get involved, and then for government of Uganda to, as a matter of urgency, to appoint a substantive Inspector General of Government, because we already know even the 2 deputies, I think their contracts will be ending next year, like in March. So if we have struggled to have a substantive IGG appointed, then what will happen when we have the deputies also, their contracts expiring? So we would really encourage government to appoint a substantive Inspector General of Government, and then to also look into processes of how fast to complete the process of appointing the 2 deputies in the event that the deputies' contracts expire. I want to thank you.
Okay, Michael?
Lastly, for me, is to thank Ugandans. There are Ugandans there that we may not know, that every day are just waking up and making sure that neighbor doesn't hoot beyond 10. That's social accountability. That their dogs are kept, silent. That you don't just do things the way you want. And to me, I salute all those Ugandans and ask everyone that it's our duty. It's our duty to do, but also to demand. Demand equals good supply. And when the supply doesn't come, the government side, we should continue pushing. It is our duty to pay tax, but it is also our duty to demand for accountability and also monitor progress. Let us not say this road is for government. Let us not say this hospital is for NRM. This hospital is for all of us. And let us take care of the resources as well. If there is a street light provided, don't go and steal the bulb. Leave it there and report if it's not working. That's actually a duty as a citizen. Sometimes we talk about rights, and people forget their duties. Let us be good citizens, but also exercise their rights and their duties. Especially let us call the demand for accountability from all leaders. And remember, ask them to account before they promise. Yeah.
Well, there you have it. Our conversation was taking a look at promoting social accountability through active citizenry. The hashtag Stand Against Corruption. The conversation continues. It doesn't stop here. And tomorrow between 5 and 7 p.m. on NTV, we will be airing the National Citizen Integrity Awards 2020. If you have never watched, perhaps this is your time. And maybe next year, you'll be able to know how you can actually vote for that person. So from January, I believe, start tracking what this person's activities are. And if you find that they are really a good fit, you now know where to nominate and have them voted. Yeah. But thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having us.
We're joined by Mr. Richard Okuku, who is from Anti-Corruption Coalition, and Mr. Michael Aboneka from Action Aid International Uganda. Have a good evening.